You just cannot miss any 1 or 2 move tactic Hikaru is going to see any day of the time of the day, any day of the week. Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, it just doesn't matter. You cannot miss this stuff against him. What a commanding
less
game.
accurate on Sunday, but he's proving that wrong.
Apparently, so, I mean, it's all relative. But I just thought that was a funny stat. And Hikaru wins the first decisive game. He's up 1.5. This is already, a very concerning moment in the match for Wesley because now he is black.
Yeah.
Another Canal variation. And again, Hikaru plays this D3 move. He's probably going to do the same general thing. Knight BD2, Rook E1, Knight F1, and Knight G3.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because usually White gets these positions with the pawn already on D4 and then goes for this knight maneuver. But at least he's avoiding some theory. Like if you delay D3 or D4, Black sometimes plays C4 and you cannot get that move in. You'd have to deal with Black taking on D3. So I guess Hikaru just plays this way to avoid some theory, but Wesley should be fine here. So it's going to be interesting to see how this game is going to proceed.
Yeah, Hikaru now goes D4. So kind of a slightly strange kind of hesitation. Goes D3, then he goes D4.
Yeah.
So okay, Wesley
C8, X-raying the bishop
to take on
D4. Yeah, so bishop D3, I guess.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, knight E3 would drop the E4 pawn.
Yeah.
There it is.
And now I'm curious what Wesley is going to do. Very often Black plays D5 at some point in these positions.
Yep.
And then if White goes D5, he goes A5.
That's an interesting looking, weird looking move. Again, bishop takes B5, you're going to lose the pawn on E4. So knight G3 would make sense here. Is Wesley preparing B4? Is that his idea?
I guess so, but it looks a little, it makes some sense because you don't really want to take on B4. You also don't really want to take on C5. So I guess Hikaru is just going to ignore it for now. Maybe develop his other bishop to H3, bishop D2 or bishop F4. And he goes H3. Yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of a slow... It seems like there's a lot going on, but in reality, both sides' positions are very, very solid. So we're not going to see any explosions in the next 3-4 moves. But Wesley can keep pushing his queenside pawns. He can go A4 and try to go A3. Hikaru's probably not going to allow that, though.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think as soon as Wesley goes A4, I think Hikaru is going to trade on B4. And that trade should favor Hikaru, because then the pawn on B4 also becomes slightly vulnerable. So it's going to be interesting to see how Wesley is going to proceed here. He can push either pawn in the center. Bishop F8, just playing the waiting game.
Grandmasters, when they don't know what to do, they default to these set of moves. Like King H8, Bishop F8, H6. Now for Hikaru, he can keep developing, play Bishop E3, Queen D2, Queen E2.
Queen E2, yep.
Maybe eyeing the move E5 at some point in the future, not immediately.
Right, yeah. No, I think definitely now Wesley has played the move H6. He's eyeing E5, and after the trade, he can go Queen to E4, threatening Queen to H7. And the problem is now Black has played H6. If he plays G6, they would hang the pawn on H6 with Bishop takes H6. So that is probably what Hikaru is looking at right now.
The problem is, and let me just show this real fast, if you go E5, you're going to run into either immediately or after pawn takes, there's a very nasty move, Bishop takes F3, presenting White with a very unpleasant decision, either ruin your pawn structure or give up the E5 pawn. So it's definitely premature to play E5 here. But as we said, maybe you go Bishop F4 and prepare it, or maybe you develop the bishop more modestly, let's say to D2. I think that's the real question Hikaru has to answer, where to put the dark-squared bishop.
I think he's going to develop the bishop to D2. That's my guess, because if he goes to F4 after a potential E5 push, the bishop will always be hit after knight E5. And the bishop can also be hit by E5 from Black. So I think bishop D2 is what Hikaru is going to do here. But let's see.
I feel like you can just see Hikaru sort of looking up at the ceiling. This is exactly what he's thinking about. It's like, I could put the bishop on D2, but then you have B takes E3, and I don't really know.
At the same time, the bishop looks more active on F4.
Right. With that being said, I do like how active the bishop is. He goes E5. Oh my goodness. He wants to take on F3 with the pawn. He wants to take with the pawn.
He does get some initiative on the king. It does make sense.
It makes some sense. The eval bar doesn't like it. I think he's going to go for your idea of putting the queen on e4 and inducing g6, and then maybe shoving that h pawn down the board. I think this idea has a lot of practical value. I would not put too much stock into what the eval bar is screaming about here.
Yeah, so I guess Wesley is going to take an f3. Pawn takes f3 is forced. I guess pawn takes c5, pawn takes c5. And then after knight d5, there is a move c4. You have to move your knight back. And then white has queen e4, but also f4, f5. It looks like Hikaru indeed does have some initiative. So
this is the best minus 1.2 position I've ever seen.
Right. Unless there's something direct for Wesley that just sort of kills all of Hikaru's play on the spot, which I don't see.
I don't see it.
E5.
I think that the computer just wants black to take on f3. No, go c4.
That's c4.
So
that is a very nice move.
This stops white from going c4, but after bishop c2, the nature of the position isn't really changed. I guess this favors black there. As bishop takes f3, Hikaru definitely overlooks c4, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. The knight is really anchored in on the d5 square. It cannot be challenged. And now Wesley goes rook to b8. He wants to trade on c3 and then go rook to b2, creating counterplay on the queen side. Yeah, I don't see how Hikaru is going to continue here. I mean, queen e4, g6 looks solid, at least for now.
And then maybe h4. I feel like white's position is falling apart there. bc3, bc3, and as you said, rook b2 would threaten knight c5. So Hikaru taking some emergency measures here, playing rook ab1, not a sign of good times here.
Yeah, but if you take on c3 now and then take on b1. Okay, so Wesley goes g6. I think Hikaru has to start some counterplay now.
Yeah, but doesn't this kind of walk into h4? Doesn't this give white a hook? And maybe even f4, f5, sack on f5, open up black's king, you know? White's got these bishops and they're aiming at the king.
Yeah, I like f4, strengthening the pawn on e5 first, and then indeed, I think he's going to follow it up with h4, h5. If white gets those two moves in, black's king gets blasted open and Hikaru will get a huge attack. So, I mean...
b6 was kind of unnecessary, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Right, so... And now, if Wesley trades on c3 and then b1, Hikaru can recapture with the rook. Whereas on the last move, he has to take with the bishop.
Yeah, here he can keep control of the b5. I just want to make a clarification for the chat. You know, when you see the eval bar swing like this, it's often not a blunder per se. So you shouldn't be asking, is Hikaru blundering a knight? It's more that it might be a serious mistake. Like the move g6 gave white a hook, right? That could accelerate the pace of the attack, but it's not a blunder per se. I would call it a serious mistake.
Yeah, and we saw Wesley just play the move knight to c5. And I was just about to say, like, Hikaru is 100% going to take the pawn, and indeed he does. Hey. When he can take a pawn, he never fails to do so.
You know what Abraham Lincoln said about these situations. A pawn is a pawn is a pawn.
Right, yeah.
Never fail to take free pawns. They don't lie by the side of the road.
Going b3 and knight takes. I mean, he has some compensation.
Now, do you take this knight or do you keep this light squared bishop? I vote keep the light squared bishop for attack. Hikaru. Come on, don't make me look bad. Yeah, but now c4, knight f6. Ugh.
Yeah, he's getting some nice stability. Yeah, bishop to c3, rook to d1. It's starting to look nasty for Wesley here.
It's starting to he's starting to slide off of his very active positions. First the knight. Then bishop c3 is kind of going to make the looks look dumb. The rooks look dumb.
I think Wesley panicked a little bit. I mean, we were talking earlier how Hikaru could start to develop an initiative on the king side, but it was not scary yet. So it was a little bit unnecessary to give up the pawn like that. And he goes, rook takes h3.
There's no way this works. Hikaru's going to take this knight. After queen h4, I think he's going to go knight f6 check and queen g4. But then Wesley has rook h1,
but then rook h2. But maybe queen e4, defending the h1 square.
Takes queen h4, check, and then queen e4, defending the h1 square, stopping the rook.
Yeah.
Hikaru's going to take as much time as he needs because he knows if he finds the right approach here, he's going to be winning.
Yeah, and we're talking about this earlier. Knight g3 and bishop c5 by Wesley. And bishop e3 by Hikaru blocking everything.
Wait a second. Rook b3.
What is happening?
What is going on here? If you take the bishop, Wesley wants to take the knight.
Queen f3 by Hikaru, therefore.
Calmly getting his
d5.
queen into the defense.
So Wesley is threatening d4. So Hikaru goes rook to c1, hitting the bishop.
So if bishop takes c3, very important to clarify, Hikaru's going to take with the rook. He's not touching this pawn. This pawn's defending the knight. Wesley's threatening d4, and Hikaru shuts down that rook on b3.
Yeah, very nice move. I don't see how Wesley can keep up the initiative here.
It's fizzling out. Look at that knight on g3. It's a hero defending h1, defending f1, defending all of the key squares, and Hikaru might just start an attack of his own.
Yeah, so e6.
It's over.
Yeah,
his attack is over. Crushing.
Yeah, he's just crushing through on the king's side. There's nothing for Wesley. If he takes on g3, don't take with the pawn, but you just take with the queen. And Wesley resigned. Hikaru taking a 2-point lead.
Command.